Welcome to The Curious Keeper. I am your host, Shannon Cutts, along with my ever-present feathered sidekick and co-host, Pearl Cutts. And I'm also mama to an adorable 6.5-year-old red-footed tortoise named Malty. And Malty's kind of the topic of discussion up today because, while I've learned a ton since Malty first came to me as a silver dollar-sized hatchling, there's always more to learn, and it's just never a week goes by without me looking at something she's doing or not doing and thinking, why do Redfoot tortoises do that? And so that was kind of the inspiration for this series, and recruiting the help of my dear friend, expert herpetologist Danielle Inman, to come and help to kind of decode some of these behaviors from not just an anthropomorphic viewpoint, but more of an evolutionary and biological and adaptive and survival of the fittest kind of based viewpoint. And so Danielle is an exotic animal expert. She has both the clinical background and education and also the practical hands-on experience with so many diverse and fascinating exotic species, but most importantly for our purposes here today, the red-footed tortoise. And so thank you for being with us. Very appreciative of your time. Today we are going to talk about why do redfoot tortoises seem to like to so explore the world with their mouths and their noses. And I've seen my Malty bite on bricks, keys, tennis shoe soles, Croc sandals, her humidifier tube. None of those are edible. So I'm just curious, so what's going on there?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons for this, and the first and the main reason is because a lot of these inorganic objects mimic the texture or appearance of a much tastier food item. And so, things like foams, like a tennis shoe sole or a Croc or insulation, even things like that are very fungi-like in their texture. They feel a lot like a nice juicy oyster mushroom, and so it is for an animal that doesn't have hands and can't break it apart with their hands and feel things, and is more reliant on how it feels to their mouth, the mouth feel of it, if you will. Maybe they're more of a connoisseur than we realize. They're reliant upon that, as an experiential indication of whether or not they should eat something. And so for those items that do really feel a lot like something they should be eating, that's where we have to worry about the ingestion of a foreign body. And we see, plenty of times where that happens. And so it's up to us as their caretakers to make sure that we tortoise proof or make tortoise safe any area that they are going to, be allowed access to. That it's not just things like foams, like you said, metallic items. Those are nice and shiny, and that is a very intriguing appearance for a tortoise. And a little metal screw doesn't look that dissimilar to a nice little glistening slug, and so for that reason, those things are sometimes tasted, and sometimes I think just for the hell of it, because it's something they can fit in their mouth and they will eat. These things are ingested and can be really problematic. So it's important for things within the habitat to either be a large enough or secure enough item that they cannot break off a piece and ingest it, to preclude that as an opportunity, or to be safe to be ingested. And plants are a big part of that as well. So we need to make sure that any plants in a habitat are not toxic, because, a big leafy green thing, whether it's toxic or not, because we deal with so many non-native species, they may taste and may ingest and could harm them. So because, like you said, they do explore the world with their mouth and nose, as their main indicator of, you know, what's going on, what should I do with this? We have to be really careful and really mindful of that. And as far as sniffing goes, you know, they do have a decent sense of smell. And so, you know, while it is not the only sense that they rely on, you know, as we've just discussed, it is a good indication of whether or not something might be delicious, you know, based on how stinky it is or the aroma. And that's why they do like to eat, you know, sometimes things that seem borderline offensive to us. But, you know, that's another thing that, because they do rely on their sense of smell to some extent, that's why when we do see these turtles and tortoises with respiratory disease, appetite can sometimes be one of the first things to go. And while that may be in part because they just feel crummy, it's also because they lose the sense of smell when, you know, the sinuses and the nares are colonized by these ugly bacterial organisms, you know, that prevent them from being able to smell. And so, you know, that's why sometimes when they do have respiratory disease, the only things that they will still eat are those really extra stinky things. And so, you know, the exhibition of these specific natural behaviors is an indication of, you know, good health and their normal behaviors. And when those start to go away with any of these things that we discuss in these Q&A sessions, that may be an indication that, you know, that there's something going on, something maybe a little more sinister brewing. So while they look like cute things, and I mean, it is a cute behavior, you know, just to observe, it's something that we should watch, be mindful of, and make sure that we're protecting them from their own natural behaviors.
That makes perfect sense. And you're so right, because of course, when you and I first met, Malty, come here, sweetheart, Malty was suffering from a respiratory infection and kind of had lost, not necessarily lost her appetite, like you say. You know, when I would give her something like extra stinky, like, you know, dog food or something, you know, salmon, something like that, she would gobble it down, but had lost the interest in exploring her world. And I'm sure it's part because she did feel crappy. I mean, I know how I feel when I get a sinus infection, but also just, you know, the real, just wasn't able to sense her environment in the same way. And that was kind of my first warning sign, hey, there's something wrong here. So it's a great point, you know, it's that these, I mean, I have videos of her biting tennis shoes and trying to climb up my mother's Crocs sandals and biting my keys, and it's adorable, but it's so important as a curious keeper to look deeper and really ask, you know, what is going on from the tortoise's point of view, and maybe is there a need that's not being met, or is there a habitat issue that maybe isn't quite safe enough. So thank you so much for that insight. It's been wonderful talking to you today, and as always, and look forward to sharing more insights into the mind's eye of the red-footed tortoise with you here on The Curious Keeper. Why do red-foot tortoises do that? So thank you. Goodbye for now, and look forward to seeing you soon.